Ryan had flown across many regions of space, but he had never seen a storm like this. His cargo ship trembled as if the universe itself wanted to crush it. Lights flickered on the dashboard, alarms cried out one after another, and warning symbols painted the control screen in red. He gripped the steering handles tightly, trying to keep the vessel steady. He had been traveling through the nebula for only a few hours, transporting mining supplies to a distant colony. It was supposed to be an easy route, one he had taken before, without trouble. Yet something had changed inside the thick clouds of glowing gas. Strange energy surged through the ship's systems, pulling him off course. The engines began to fail, and the navigation system could not find a way out. Ryan spoke to himself, trying to stay calm. Hold together, just a little longer. He had no one else on board, only his voice echoing back in the empty cabin. When the main engine gave out, the ship lurched. Stars vanished from his window, replaced by a swirl of blue and gold light. His heart pounded as he fought to bring the emergency thrusters online. At last, a small screen displayed a single planet nearby. Its surface was hidden under the storm of the nebula, but it was his only chance. He aimed the ship toward it, praying the landing systems would still work. Fire streaked across the hull as he entered the planet's atmosphere. The ship shook so violently that he thought it would tear apart in midair. He strapped himself tighter into his seat, teeth clenched, eyes locked on the flickering screen. That showed his descent path. Moments later, the ship broke through the storm clouds, and the surface of the planet revealed itself. He saw mountains that glowed faintly in the night, and forests of tall silver trees that shone like mirrors. Rivers reflected the strange light of two moons that hung above. It was both beautiful and frightening, a place untouched by human hands. With a final roar, the ship crashed into a wide clearing. Metal screeched, panels flew open, and smoke filled the air. The vessel slid across the ground until it struck a ridge of stone and came to a stop. Silence followed. Only the hiss of cooling metal remained. Ryan unfastened himself and stumbled to his feet. His head spun and his hands shook, but he was alive. He grabbed a light from the storage panel and opened the exit hatch. The air outside was thick but breathable. He stepped onto the alien soil, his boots sinking slightly into the soft earth dot at first. He thought he had landed in a deserted place. The forest around him was quiet, and the silver leaves rustled gently in the breeze. Yet as he walked forward, he noticed a glow beyond the trees. It pulsed like firelight, steady and warm. Curiosity drove him toward it. He pushed through the branches and entered a vast stone courtyard. His breath caught. Hundreds of tall figures stood in perfect circles, wearing long robes that shimmered in the light of great crystal torches. At the center was a raised platform carved with symbols. Upon it stood a woman unlike any he had ever seen. Her skin was pale gold, and her eyes shone like polished glass. A crown of silver rested on her brow, and a flowing robe covered her tall frame. She held a staff of crystal, its top glowing brighter than all the torches combined. She raised it high above her head as if commanding the very stars. The entire crowd knelt before her. Their voices rose in a chant, rhythmic and powerful, filling the air with a strange energy that made Ryan's heart race. It was no simple gathering. This was a sacred ceremony, something ancient and important to their people. But the moment his foot touched the stone floor of the courtyard, the chanting stopped. Every head turned. Hundreds of alien eyes locked on him at once. The glow of the staff dimmed slightly as the priestess lowered her arm and stared at him. Silence spread across the gathering like a wave. Ryan felt his stomach twist. He had not meant to interrupt. He had only been searching for help. Yet here he was, standing in the middle of something holy, an outsider with no right to be there. Two robed guards moved swiftly toward him, their long spears glowing with energy. Ryan raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. His voice trembled. As he spoke, I did not mean to intrude. My ship crashed. I am only looking for safety. The guards stopped just a few steps away. They waited, their eyes fixed on the priestess. The crowd also held still, as if they awaited her judgment. Slowly, she lowered her staff and stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of command. The one from the sky has come. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some bowed their heads, others whispered to one another. Ryan did not understand their words, but he felt the shift in the air. His chest tightened. The priestess stopped only a few paces from him. She studied him carefully, her shining eyes unblinking. Finally, she spoke again. You stand where no stranger has stood. You have broken the silence of the right. Ryan swallowed hard. I am sorry. I did not know. I never wished to disturb. You. Her gaze softened for just a moment. Then she turned to her people and lifted her staff again. Her voice rose, steady and clear. The prophecy is fulfilled. The Wanderer has arrived. The courtyard erupted with sound. The people cheered, cried out, and fell to their knees. The guards lowered their weapons. Ryan stood frozen, unsure of what had just happened. He had crashed by chance. He had walked here by accident. Yet now, this entire gathering looked at him as though he had been sent by the stars themselves. The priestess turned back to him, her expression calm but resolute. From this night forward, you are no longer a stranger. You are chosen. Ryan's heart pounded. He did not understand the meaning of her words, but he knew one thing clearly. Whatever life he had known before, it was gone. A new path had just opened before him, and it began here, in the middle of an alien ceremony he had never meant to interrupt. The courtyard remained alive with shouts and cries of wonder. The people pressed their foreheads to the stone ground, while others lifted their arms toward the sky. To them, this was not chaos but celebration. To Ryan, it was confusion. He stood at the center, surrounded by hundreds of beings who saw him as something he could not understand. The priestess lowered her staff and motioned for silence. Her voice, calm and firm, rang through the courtyard. The prophecy has spoken. The one from the stars has come to stand with us. At once, the voices hushed. Every gaze turned again toward Ryan. He felt his knees weaken under the weight of so much attention. His heart pounded against his chest, and he wanted to explain that this was all a mistake. But no words left his lips. The priestess stepped closer. Her golden skin seemed to glow in the light of the twin moons above. You are no intruder, she said, her tone leaving no space for doubt. You are the one who was promised. Ryan shook his head quickly. I think you are mistaken. I am no one special. My ship failed, and I barely made it here alive. I did not come for prophecy. I came only to survive. A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. The guards shifted, glancing at one another, but the priestess did not look away. Her eyes, bright like polished crystal, studied him with patience. She raised her hand, and the courtyard grew still again. You speak with doubt, but the signs are clear. The prophecy told of a wanderer who would fall from the sky during the hour of silence. That hour is now. You came when the right had reached its final breath. There is no mistake. Ryan's mouth went dry. He tried to find an answer, yet the weight of her words pressed on him. He looked at the people kneeling all around. Their faces shone with belief. Their voices whispered with reverence. To them, it was truth. To him, it was chance. I do not belong here, he said softly. I am just a man with a broken ship. The priestess lifted her staff, and the crystal atop it burned brighter than before. A man with a broken ship would not have walked into this chamber at the exact moment foretold. You are chosen, whether you see it or not. The rite was interrupted because it awaited you. The bond cannot be complete without you. Ryan frowned. The word bond made his stomach tighten. What do you mean by bond? He asked, and her gaze did not waver. The ceremony is the binding of light. It unites the high priestess with the one named by the stars. Together they carry the wisdom of the old and the strength of the new. Without the wanderer, the rite is hollow. With you, it is whole. The crowd repeated her words in a chant. With you, it is whole. Their voices echoed against the stone walls and rolled into the night sky. Ryan's hands trembled. I cannot do this. I am not one of you. I do not know your ways. The priestess stepped closer until she stood just before him. She lowered her voice so that only he could hear. Your fear is understood, but I see strength within you. My people doubt, yet I do not. I feel the truth of the prophecy in your presence. Do not run from it. Walk with it. Ryan met her gaze. There was no mockery in her eyes, no hunger for power. There was only calm belief. For a moment, he forgot the crowd, the crash, and even his broken ship. He felt only the weight of her words and the strange energy that seemed to pulse in the air between them. The guards suddenly struck their spears on the ground, sending sparks into the air. One of them spoke in a deep voice. The rite cannot. Wait, it must be completed. The wanderer has been named. The time is now. The people rose slowly, their eyes filled with expectation. Ryan felt trapped. He wanted to argue, to walk away, but he had nowhere to go. His ship was destroyed, and this was the only shelter he had found. And more than that, something in his heart whispered that leaving was not the right path. He took a deep breath. If I agree to this, what does it mean for me? The priestess held her staff close to her chest. It means you are no longer alone. You will share in the voice of our ancestors. You will walk as my chosen one, not as an intruder. My people will see you as protector and partner. You will not be cast aside. Ryan let the words settle. Protector, partner. The thought scared him, but it also gave him a strange sense of purpose he had not felt in years. He had been a cargo pilot, drifting from one contract to the next, never staying long in any place. Here, he was being told he had meaning, that his arrival was not an accident but destiny. The priestess raised her staff high once more. People of Lumerus, hear me. The wanderer has spoken. He walks among us not as stranger, but as chosen. From this night, he is bound to me. The bond of light is sealed. The crowd erupted again, louder than before. Some struck the stone floor with their palms. Others lifted their hands toward the sky. Their joy was clear and their belief unshaken. Ryan stood in the center, unsure of what to feel. A part of him still wanted to run, to deny this role. Yet another part felt the pull of their trust and of the priestess's calm certainty. The priestess turned to him once more. Her voice was gentle now. Rest, wanderer. Tomorrow we will begin the path together. Tonight, you are safe among us. Two attendants stepped forward, bowing low before him. They gestured for him to follow. Ryan hesitated, then walked with them. He glanced back once more at the priestess. She stood tall on the platform, her staff glowing like a star. Their eyes met, and she gave the smallest nod, as though assuring him he was not walking into a trap, but into a place meant for him. As he followed the attendants into the shadows of the temple halls, Ryan felt a storm of thoughts within him. He had wanted only to survive, yet now he was tied to a people who believed in him as a savior. The weight of it pressed on his shoulders, but a spark of something new burned in his chest. For the first time in years, Ryan wondered if fate truly had a plan for him. Ryan woke to the sound of soft chimes. He opened his eyes and found himself lying on a bed carved from smooth stone, covered with warm, woven blankets. The air smelled of herbs and faint smoke from incense. Golden light streamed through high windows. filling the chamber with a calm glow. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then the memories rushed back, the crash, the courtyard, the priestess, and the strange declaration that had changed everything. He sat up slowly, rubbing his temples. His body ached from the crash, but it was the weight inside his chest that troubled him most. The priestess had called him chosen. The people had cheered. And now he was bound to something he did not understand. The sound of footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. A figure entered the chamber. It was an elder, wearing a long robe of green and silver. His face was lined with age, but his eyes carried a sharp light. He bowed slightly. "The high priestess asks for your presence." Ryan stood, uncertain of what to say. He followed the elder down a long hall. The walls were carved with patterns of stars and flowing rivers. Strange crystals glowed faintly within the stone, lighting the path without flame. The building itself felt alive, as if it had been grown rather than built. At last, they stepped into a wide chamber. At the center stood the priestess, Alira, her staff resting against the floor beside her. She turned when he entered, her golden eyes calm as ever. "Wanderer," she said, "you are awake." Ryan nodded slowly. "I am awake, yes, but I am not sure what I am supposed to be." Alira studied him for a long moment. "You carry doubt. I expected this. No wanderer comes without fear. Sit with me." She gestured to a low table surrounded by cushions. Ryan lowered himself onto one of them while Alira sat across from him. The elder bowed once more and left them alone. The silence hung between them until Ryan finally spoke. "I need to understand. Why do you believe I am part of this prophecy? I told you before I am no hero. I am just a pilot. I transport supplies from one colony to another. That is all." Alira placed her hands together, her fingers delicate but steady. A man who sees himself as small may still carry greatness. The prophecy did not name the wanderer as warrior or scholar. It spoke only of one who would arrive from the stars at the hour of silence. "That is you. That is truth." Ryan shook his head. "But what if it is just chance? What if your prophecy is wrong?" Alira's gaze softened, yet her voice remained steady. "Chance does not move the stars. Chance does not bring one to the very heart of a right untouched for centuries. You are here because it was meant." Her certainty left him speechless. He lowered his eyes. "You speak as though I have some great role, but I do not even know your ways. I cannot lead your people. I cannot be what you expect." Alira leaned forward slightly. "We do not ask you to lead. We ask you to stand, to be part of the bond. The burden of the right is heavy, but it is not yours alone. It is ours, together." Ryan looked up at her. "What burden?" Her expression grew solemn. "The binding of light was meant to restore balance. Our world faces shadows that you have not yet seen. The forests wither in places. Rivers run dry without reason. The old texts speak of a great silence that will swallow us if the right is not complete. The prophecy promised that one from the stars would join with the high priestess to awaken strength that sleeps within our people. Without you, the right is hollow." Ryan's chest tightened. He had wanted only to survive, yet now he was told that the survival of an entire world rested on him. He rose to his feet, pacing. "I do not know how to awaken strength. I do not even know how to survive on this planet without my ship. How can you expect me to save anyone?" Alira did not rise. She watched him quietly, her calm presence steady against his storm of doubt. At last, she said, "Your strength is not in knowing our ways. Your strength is in being what we are not. You see paths we do not. You act when we hesitate. That is why you were chosen." Her words sank into him. He stopped pacing and met her eyes. "You believe this so deeply." "Why?" "Because I feel it," she said. "When you stepped onto the stone, the air shifted. The right answered, "My people may question, but I cannot. I know what I saw. I know what I felt." Ryan lowered his gaze. He wanted to argue again, but the truth was that he had felt something. 2. When he had entered the courtyard, a strange energy had filled him, a pulse that had not left since. It frightened him, yet it also drew him in. Before he could speak again, the elder returned, bowing. "High Priestess, the council calls for you." They wished to speak of the wanderer. Alira stood, her staff in hand. She looked at Ryan with a quiet strength. "The council doubts, but I will answer them. Walk with me." Ryan followed her through the halls until they reached a grand chamber. Inside, a circle of elders waited. They wore robes of many colors, each representing a different part of their society. Their eyes turned to Ryan as he entered, some filled with curiosity, others with suspicion. One elder, tall and stern, spoke first. "This human is fragile. How can he carry the weight of prophecy? We risk our future on a mistake." Another shook her head. The signs were true. He came at the right hour. We cannot deny the pattern. The voices rose, argument filling the chamber. Ryan stood still, listening as they debated his worth as though he were not present. His fist tightened. He had never asked for this role, yet here they were, ready to build or destroy him with their words. At last, Alira lifted her staff. The chamber grew silent. "Enough. You see only what he lacks. I see what he holds. He does not claim greatness, yet that is proof of his heart. He does not seek power, yet he has been given place. This is no mistake. This is fate." The elders bowed their heads, though some still frowned. The tall, stern elder spoke again. "Then let him prove himself. Words are air, deeds are stone. If he is to share the bond, let him show that he is worthy." Alira turned to Ryan, her eyes steady. "Will you face trial? Will you show them what I already know?" Ryan hesitated. The word trial twisted his stomach. He was tired, uncertain, and afraid. Yet as he looked into her eyes, he saw no doubt there, only trust. Slowly, he nodded. "I will face it." A quiet murmur swept through the chamber. The council had its answer. The burden had been set. As the meeting ended, Ryan followed Alira out. His steps were heavy, but his heart carried a strange fire. He did not know what trial awaited him, but he knew one thing clearly. He could not turn away now. The burden was his to carry, whether by fate or by chance. The next morning, the temple bells rang across the valley. Their deep tones echoed through the silver forests and along the riverbanks, calling every villager to gather at the ancient grounds. Rand stood near the great stone gates, his stomach tight with unease. He had agreed to face the trial, but he still had no idea what it meant. Beside him, Alira rested her staff against the earth. Her calm face hid none of the weight she carried. She looked at him and said softly, "Do not fear the trial. It is not made to destroy you. It is made to reveal you." Ryan forced a thin smile. "I hope you are right, because I have never felt less ready for anything in my life." Alira touched the glowing crystal of her staff and spoke in a quiet voice, as if only to him. "Courage is not readiness. It is stepping forward even when you are not ready. That is what the trial seeks." Her words gave him some strength, though doubt still churned in his chest. The gates opened, and the council elders appeared, their robes flowing like rivers of color. Behind them came hundreds of villagers, filling the terraces that surrounded the trial grounds. The air hummed with expectation. Some faces watched with faith, others with suspicion, but all eyes were locked on him. The tall, stern elder, the one who had demanded proof, raised his hand for silence. His voice carried across the grounds. "The wanderer stands before us. He claims no greatness, yet he has been named by prophecy. Today he will face the trial of 3. If he endures, the bond of light will be sealed. If he fails, the prophecy is false. The crowd stirred, whispering. Ryan felt his throat dry. He leaned slightly toward Alira and whispered, "Trial of 3? What does that mean?" Alira answered without looking away from the crowd. 3 challenges, each of a different kind. Mind, heart, and body. Together they show the whole of who you are. Ryan muttered under his breath, "Wonderful." The first challenge began as the elders led him to a circle carved into the stone floor. Symbols of stars and rivers glowed faintly in the dust. At the edge of the circle, the elder, in green robes, held a set of ancient star maps etched into crystal plates. He placed them before Ryan. "The first trial is wisdom," he said. "These maps are the voice of our ancestors. They show the paths of the stars, yet one is false. You must see which does not belong." Ryan knelt, studying the plates. The crystals shimmered with countless lines and points of light. At first, the patterns meant nothing to him. But as he traced them with his finger, he began to notice small differences. 2 maps showed star paths that bent gently around a cluster, while the third showed a line that cut directly through it. He frowned. He had spent years navigating star fields, using human charts and sensors. He remembered that no ship could safely cross a cluster in a straight path. His instincts told him which map was false. He held it up. "This one," he said firmly. The elder examined it, then raised his head. "He is correct." A murmur of surprise passed through the crowd. Ryan exhaled, his shoulders loosening just slightly. 1 challenge complete. The second trial came without pause. 2 attendants stepped forward, carrying a vessel filled with glowing stones. The elder in blue robes explained, "The second trial is of the heart. These stones carry the memories of those who came before. You must face what they show and not turn away." Ryan hesitated as the vessel was placed before him. When he touched one of the stones, light burst into his vision. He was no longer standing in the trial grounds. Instead, he found himself in a village long ago, where flames consumed homes and voices cried out in fear. He felt the sorrow of loss, the weight of helplessness. His chest ached. He wanted to pull away, but something inside him told him not to. He stepped into the memory, helping figures carry water, guiding children to safety. Though it was not real, he acted as though it was. The fire roared, but he did not run. He faced it. When the light faded, he was back in the circle, his hands trembling. The crowd was silent, watching him closely. The elder nodded. He did not flee. He carried the weight. The heart of the wanderer is strong. Alira's eyes shone with quiet pride. Ryan felt a flicker of strength, though he was drained. Then came the third trial. The elder in red robes struck his staff against the ground. The final trial is of the body. The wanderer must stand against the guardian. The ground shook as a great machine rose from beneath the stone floor. It was shaped like a beast of metal, with 4 legs and glowing eyes. Its body was marked with ancient runes, and its joints hissed with steam. It stepped into the circle, towering over Ryan. His mouth went dry. "You have got to be kidding me," the elder declared. "Defeat is not required. Survival is enough." The beast roared, and the trial began. Ryan jumped back as the machine lunged. He had no weapon, only his instincts. He rolled across the floor, barely avoiding its massive claw. The crowd shouted as sparks flew from its joints. Ryan scrambled to his feet, searching for any weakness. He remembered his years of repairing ships, crawling through engines and finding cracks in old metal. Machines, no matter how strong, always had a weakness. He forced himself to focus. The beast turned, its eyes glowing brighter. As it charged again, Ryan noticed a gap near its leg joint where the runes did not glow. He waited, heart pounding, until it swung its claw again. Then he dove low, grabbed a stone from the ground, and jammed it into the joint. The beast staggered, its movement faltering. Sparks burst out. The crowd gasped as the machine stumbled. Ryan leapt aside, dodging another swipe. He grabbed another stone and struck the same weak point again. With a final shudder, the beast collapsed onto its side, its glow fading. The trial ground shook with silence. Then the elder raised his hand. The wanderer endures. The trial is complete. The people erupted in cheers. Some shouted his name. Others lifted their arms high. Ryan stood in the circle, his chest heaving, sweat dripping from his brow. He could hardly believe it himself. He had survived. Alira stepped forward, her staff glowing like a star. She placed her hand on his shoulder. You see now, you are more than you believe. The prophecy does not ask for perfection. It asks for truth, and you have shown it. Ryan looked at her, his heart still racing. For the first time, he felt a spark of belief, not in the prophecy, but in himself. The burden was heavy, but he was still standing. The trial grounds were still ringing with cheers, long after the metal guardian fell. Villagers clapped their hands together, their voices echoing across the valley like rolling thunder. To them, the prophecy had been proven true. To them, the wanderer was no longer a stranger, but a part of their destiny. Ryan stood in the center of the circle, still catching his breath. His body ached, and sweat ran down his back, but the fire of survival burned inside him. He had faced their trials and endured. The elders had no choice but to accept him now. Alira stepped forward, her staff glowing softly, and placed her hand over his heart. Her voice rang out across the crowd. The wanderer has shown wisdom, heart, and strength. The bond is not broken. The bond is alive. The people bowed, pressing their foreheads to the ground. For a moment, Ryan felt the weight of their belief pressing on him more strongly than any trial. They truly saw him as chosen. Later that evening, the celebration spread across the village. Lanterns of crystal light hung between the silver trees, casting a gentle glow. Music rose from drums and flutes, blending with voices that sang of the prophecy. Food was offered freely, strange fruits with glowing skin, and bread baked from golden grains. Children ran in circles, chasing one another and laughing. Ryan walked among them, still overwhelmed. Everywhere he turned, villagers bowed or touched their hands to their hearts in respect. Some offered him gifts, simple tokens of carved wood or woven cloth. He accepted them politely, though he felt undeserving. Alira stayed at his side, guiding him through the celebration. Unlike the others, she did not overwhelm him with words or questions. She simply walked with quiet grace, introducing him to families, explaining the meaning of songs, and answering his curious questions about the world. At one point, as they stood near the edge of the glowing forest, Ryan turned to her. I still do not understand. Why trust me so much? Your people see me as part of some great plan, but you look at me differently. Why? Alira's golden eyes met his. The lantern light danced across her features, making her look both fierce and gentle at once. Because I do not see you only as the prophecy. I see you as you are. You doubt yourself, yet you step forward anyway. You feel fear, yet you do not hide. That is what makes you worthy. Her words settled deep in his chest. He had never thought of himself as brave. To him, he was just a man trying to survive from one day to the next. But she saw something else in him, something he had not dared to believe was there. They continued walking together until the music faded into the night. The villagers rested, and the celebration grew quiet. Alira led him to a high balcony overlooking the valley. From there, he could see the twin moons rising, casting silver light across the rivers and trees. This place, Alira said softly, was built by my ancestors to watch the skies. They knew one day a wanderer would come, not to rule us, but to walk with us. Tonight, you stood beside me and proved their words true. From now on, our bond is not only prophecy. It is choice. Ryan leaned on the stone railing, staring at the moons. Choice, he repeated. You speak of it like it is powerful. It is, Alira replied. Fate may bring us to a door, but only choice can step through it. My ancestors believed that when the wanderer came, it would not be enough for the stars to name him. He would have to choose us, and we would have to choose him. That is the bond. Her words stirred something inside him. He thought of his life before the endless flights between colonies, the silence of empty cargo bays, the sense that he was drifting without purpose. Here, for the first time, he was being asked to choose, not for survival, but for meaning. He turned to her. And if I choose not to? If I walk away? Alira's expression did not change, but her voice grew softer. Then the bond fades. The prophecy becomes empty, and my people may fall to silence. But more than that, I would lose the one who stood beside me today. And that, wanderer, would be the heavier loss. Ryan's chest tightened. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not just a priestess, but a woman carrying the hopes of her people with quiet strength. He realized how much trust she had placed in him, a man who had stumbled here by accident. For the first time, he wanted to carry that trust. I do not know if I can be what you need, he said honestly, but I will not walk away. If this bond is choice, then I choose to stand with you. Alira's eyes brightened. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder, her touch warm and steady. Then the bond is real. They stood together in silence, the moon shining above them, the valley glowing with silver light. Ryan felt the weight of the day lift slightly from his shoulders. He was still uncertain of the future, still afraid of what lay ahead, but he no longer felt alone. The days that followed strengthened the bond between them. Alira introduced him to the temple archives, where ancient texts recorded the history of her people. She taught him their symbols and showed him how to read the flowing patterns of their language. Though the learning was slow, she was patient, and her quiet laughter when he made mistakes eased his frustration. In return, Ryan shared his own knowledge. He explained the workings of human ships, drawing diagrams of engines and showing how stars were mapped in human charts. Alira listened with fascination, sometimes asking questions he had never thought to ask himself. Together, they discovered new ways of thinking, blending two worlds into one dot as they worked side by side. Their trust grew into something deeper. The villagers noticed it too, whispering among themselves that the bond was strong. Where once some had doubted, now they began to believe. One evening, as they stood at the edge of the forest, Alira asked, "Do you still feel the burden of the prophecy as heavy as before?" Ryan thought for a moment. "It is still heavy, but when I share it with you, it feels less like a weight and more like a path. And for the first time, I want to see where it leads." Alira smiled, a rare and gentle expression. "Then we walk together, wherever it may go." And in that moment, under the silver trees and the twin moons, Ryan felt the bond was not only prophecy, but truth. It was not forced, not demanded. It was chosen. The bond between Ryan and Alira grew stronger with each passing day. Together they studied the ancient texts, walked through the glowing forests, and spoke with villagers who once doubted but now welcomed him warmly. For the first time since his crash, Ryan began to feel not like a stranger, but like he belonged. Yet shadows do not vanish easily. One night, as the moons climbed high above the valley, the council gathered in secret. Among them was Elder Kale, the tall, stern man who had doubted Ryan from the beginning. His voice cut through the silence of the chamber. "This human has survived trials, yes, But his survival is luck, not destiny. He's weak to bind him to. The high priestess is to risk all that we guard. Another elder replied softly, the prophecy is clear. He came at the hour foretold. The people believe. Kale slammed his hand against the stone table. Belief is not strength. Belief will not protect us when the silence spreads across our lands. If we trust this wanderer, we are fools. Others murmured, torn between hope and doubt. In the shadows beyond the council chamber, unseen listeners stirred. Among the villagers were some who followed Kale, whispering that the prophecy was false, and that the high priestess had been blinded by her faith. The whispers grew into something sharper. The first sign of danger came at dawn. Ryan and Alira were walking near the river when a sudden cry rose from the village. Smoke twisted upward from the northern edge, where a storehouse of food burned in bright flames. Villagers rushed with water, shouting in fear. Ryan ran to help, grabbing buckets and passing them along the line. The heat stung his face, and the smoke filled his lungs, but together they managed to control the fire before it spread further. When the flames were gone, only ash and blackened beams remained. Alira examined the ruins with steady eyes. This was no accident, she said. Ryan frowned. What do you mean? She pointed to marks on the stone walls, symbols carved roughly with a sharp blade. These are signs of division, a warning. There are those among us who reject the bond. They will not remain silent. Ryan felt his chest tighten. He had seen sabotage before, on human colonies where greed or anger turned neighbor against neighbor. But here it struck deeper because the anger was aimed at him. That evening, the council demanded answers. Villagers filled the temple hall, their voices loud and restless. Some shouted that the wanderer brought danger. Others argued that he was the only hope. The chamber shook with the sound of division. Ryan stood at the center, his fists clenched. He had faced the trials, survived the Guardian, earned their respect. Yet still some saw him as nothing more than a threat. Elder Kale rose, his eyes hard. Do you see now? His presence brings fire, not light. The prophecy has blinded you. We must cast him out before more harm comes. The crowd murmured in fear and agreement. But Alira stepped forward, her staff glowing like a star. It was not his hand that set the flames. It was the hand of those who fear him. Casting him out will not heal us. It will destroy us. Her voice carried strength, but the division remained. That night, Ryan could not sleep. He sat on the temple balcony, staring at the twin moons. His thoughts twisted in endless circles. He had not asked for this role, had not wished to be seen as chosen. Now, his presence threatened to tear their people apart. Alira joined him quietly, placing her staff beside the railing. You blame yourself, she said softly. Ryan did not look at her. Maybe Kale is right. Maybe I should not be here. I came by accident. If my staying here causes more harm, then maybe leaving is the only way. Alira shook her head. Do you believe the flames would stop if you left? Do you believe those who fear change would suddenly find peace? No, their fear would only grow stronger. You are not the cause, Ryan. You are the reason their fear is revealed. That is different. Her words struck him, but doubt still gnawed at his chest. Then what am I supposed to do? I am no warrior. I am not even a leader. I cannot fight them. You can, Alira said firmly, but not with weapons. With truth, with choice. That is what makes you different. That is what they cannot understand. Before Ryan could answer, a cry echoed from the forest. Guards rushed into the temple, their faces pale. High Priestess, Wanderer, the enemy has come. Armed rebels moved through the northern woods. They marched toward the village. The words froze the chamber. Alira gripped her staff, her eyes glowing with fierce light. Gather the people. We will meet them. Moments later, Rin stood with her at the edge of the village. Torches glowed in the distance as a group of rebels emerged from the forest. Their faces were covered with cloth, their weapons crude but deadly blades of crystal and spears charged with stolen energy. At their front stood Kale himself, his robe torn into a battle cloak. He raised his hand, and his voice carried across the clearing. People of Lumerus, the prophecy is false. The Wanderer is a danger to us all. Stand with me, and we will protect our future. Stand with him, and you will fall into ruin. The villagers wavered, torn between loyalty and fear. Some stepped back, uncertain. Ryan felt every eye turn to him. His heart pounded, but he forced himself forward. I did not come here to harm you, he called out. I did not choose to crash on your world. But I did choose to stay, to stand beside Alira when I could have run. I faced your trials not because I wished for power, but because I wanted to prove I am more than chance. If you cast me out, then so be it. But do not let fear tear your people apart. I am not your enemy. For a moment, silence hung heavy. The villagers looked from Kale to Ryan, their faces uncertain. Alira raised her staff, its crystal blazing with white light. The bond of light is real. The Wanderer has proven it, not with words alone, but with deeds. Those who follow Kale choose fear. Those who stand with us choose hope. The torches flickered as tension filled the clearing. The first clash had not yet come, but the line between friend and enemy was drawn. Ryan felt the bond between him and Alira more strongly than ever. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The clearing trembled with tension. Villagers stood frozen, caught between Kale's angry shouts and Alira's steady voice. The firelight from the rebels' torches cast long shadows across the silver grass. Ryan could feel the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. This was not only a battle of weapons. It was a battle of belief. Kale's voice rang out. Do not be blinded by his words. He is not of us. He's a wanderer who will vanish when the stars call him home. Trust him, and you risk everything. Ryan, step forward, his voice steady though his hands trembled. I cannot change where I was born. I cannot change the stars that carried me here. But I can choose where I stand. Tonight, I stand with Alira. Tonight, I stand with you. The villagers murmured. Some lowered their eyes in thought. Others shifted uneasily, torn between the anger of Kale and the calm of Ryan. Alira lifted her staff, and its crystal glowed brighter than any torch. The light spread outward, bathing the clearing in silver radiance. The bond is real, she declared. It is not only fate. It is choice. Look upon this light and see that truth. Kale snarled. He raised his weapon, a jagged blade that glimmered with stolen energy. Then let us see if choice can stop steel. The rebel surged forward. Shouts filled the air as villagers scrambled in fear. Some reached for makeshift weapons to defend their homes. The clash had begun. Ryan's heart raced as he grabbed a broken staff lying on the ground. It was no match for Kale's weapon, but it was all he had. The first rebel lunged at him, and Ryan sidestepped, swinging the staff with desperate strength. The rebel fell, but another quickly replaced him. All around, the clearing erupted into chaos. Sparks flew as blades struck against shields. Cries of anger and fear filled the night. Yet above it all, Alira's voice rang out clear, chanting words of light from the old language. The crystal on her staff blazed brighter, sending waves of energy that pushed back the rebels. Kale fought his way through the crowd, his eyes locked on Ryan. His blade hummed with dangerous energy. You do not belong here, he shouted. You are nothing. Ryan tightened his grip on the staff. I may not belong by birth, he answered, but I belong by choice. Their weapons clashed. The impact shook Ryan's arms. nearly knocking the staff from his hands. Cale pressed forward with strength born of rage, forcing Ryan backward. Sparks burst with each strike, lighting the ground beneath their feet. For a moment, Ryan thought he would fall. Cale was stronger, more skilled, his blade sharper than any defense Ryan could make. But then, through the noise of battle, he heard Alira's voice. "Remember the trials," she called. "You faced the Guardian not with strength alone, but with heart. Do the same now." Ryan's mind flashed back to the day of the trial, when he had stood against the Metal Guardian. He had survived not by overpowering it, but by finding its weakness. Strength was not enough. Cleverness mattered. As Cale swung again, Ryan twisted aside at the last second, letting the blade crash into the stone ground. Sparks flew as the energy blade stuck for a heartbeat. In that instant, Ryan struck with all his might, smashing his staff against Cale's hand. The blade flew from Cale's grip, clattering across the clearing. Cale stumbled, his eyes wide with shock. Ryan stood above him, chest heaving, the broken staff still in his hands. He could end it, but instead, he lowered the staff. "I will not destroy you," Ryan said firmly. "That is not who I am. But I will not let you destroy them either. Your fear does not rule us anymore." The villagers watched in silence. The rebels, seeing their leader disarmed, faltered. Some dropped their weapons. Others lowered their heads in shame. Alira stepped forward, her staff blazing like dawn. "The bond has been tested," she declared, "and it has not broken. Those who wish to live in fear may leave. Those who wish to live in light may stay." Slowly, the rebels stepped back. Some fled into the forest, vanishing into the shadows. Others threw down their weapons and joined the villagers once more. The battle was over. The clearing grew still. The fire of the torches dimmed, and only the light of the twin moons remained. Ryan stood at the center, breathless but unbroken. Alira moved to his side, her eyes filled with both pride and relief. "You chose mercy," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "Killing him would not have proven anything. If I am to leave a mark here, let it be more than survival. Let it be hope." Her golden eyes shone. "Then you have already left your mark." In the days that followed, the village healed. The storehouse was rebuilt with the help of every hand, both old and young. The rebels who had surrendered worked beside those they once opposed, learning to set aside fear. Slowly unity returned. Elder Cale, stripped of his authority, chose exile. He left the valley alone, walking into the silver forests. None stopped him. His anger no longer had power over them. As for Ryan, his life changed in quiet but deep ways. He no longer felt like a wanderer lost among the stars. He had found a place where his choices mattered, where his presence was not only tolerated, but celebrated. The villagers no longer called him stranger. They called him brother. One evening, Ryan and Alira stood once more on the high balcony. The valley stretched out below, glowing in the light of the twin moons. The air was cool, carrying the sound of laughter and music from the village below. "You asked me once why I trust you," Alira said. "Now you know, it was not because of prophecy alone. It was because you chose us, even when it was hard." Ryan smiled, his eyes on the moons. "And you chose me when no one else did. I will never forget that." Alira lifted her staff and planted it firmly into the stone. Its crystal pulsed with a gentle glow, joining the light of the moons. "Together," she said, "we will guide our people into a future beyond fear." Ryan reached out, resting his hand lightly over hers. "Together," he agreed. And so the prophecy was fulfilled, not by fate alone, but by the choices of two souls who stood side by side. The wanderer had left his mark, not in conquest or destruction, but in hope. And that mark would shine as long as the stars themselves.